join us today and contribute towards changing the global narrative about Africa's food and nutrition. So I'll be handing over the virtual podium to Ruth Egwe, the operations manager at African Food Changemakers, to moderate the panelist session. Over to you, Ruth.
Thank you very much, Anna. Thank you. We really appreciate your introduction to this event and the introduction you played. Thank you everyone for joining. We've been at the comment section or the chat section to see how many people joining us from all around. Like Anna said, my name is Ruth and I'm happy to be the panel moderator today. And I'm hoping that we're going to have a very insightful conversation around our topic, women in agribusiness. I'm always excited to talk about women and what women are doing to make the impact they make all around the communities, all around the societies. And I'm excited to be leading this panel of great women in our community who are forging pathways to empowerment and leadership. And I'm just going to be introducing them quickly so that we can get into the conversation. So first of all, I'll be introducing Masabata. Masabata is the founder of Agribusiness. She's named one of News 2400 Young Mandelas of the future. And she's 27 years old. So I'm always excited to talk to women and more importantly, young women who are leading in different aspects. So she is an entrepreneur and a leader, and she has degrees in accounting, postgraduate diploma in financial planning. She also leads, like I said, Agribusiness, a business that connects smallholder farmers to markets, and she drives impact through her many initiatives, especially around female farmer accelerator programs. And she's recognized by the SHE Awards as Agripreneur of the Year under 30 in 2023. Masabata Sebusi, we want to say welcome. Let's put our hands together and welcome Masabata to our panel and our discussion today. Good to have you today. Our next panelist is Claudia. Claudia Castellanos is not just a member of our community, but also an ambassador in our community. Claudia is a co-founder and CEO of Black Mamba Foods. I always like to say she's a Colombian turned African impact entrepreneur, and she moved to Africa in 2008 to volunteer and then fell in love with the continent and then made it her home. We are really, really happy to embrace you and welcome you and have you for all the years that you've been in Africa. Claudia also is passionate about transforming food systems, ecosystems, and she promotes food that benefits people. She has an MBA from ESAID, and she works for Danone and TechnoServe as the Vital Voices Fellow and 2020 Women in Africa Award recipients. And we're really looking forward to hear from you this evening and your insights about women in agribusiness. And we're happy to have you. Welcome, Claudia. Last but not the least, I'm going to be introducing Jacqueline. Jacqueline Joyrin Banda is a community member and happy to announce also that she's a leading African woman in food fellow, and she's the managing director of JE Foods. And she's dedicated to transforming nutrition as well as well-being in Chinama Village, Malawi. Jacqueline is really, really passionate about food systems. I've met Jacqueline, I've connected with her. She's so energetic when it comes to food systems, and I know she's going to have a lot to share here. She also has launched impactful programs, including training women and youth farmers, promoting sustainable agriculture, and producing life-saving foods for malnourished children. She's importantly, a Mandela Washington Fellow and an alumna of leading African women in food, like I said. So she's an advocate for sustainable development and global change through grassroots solution. Jacqueline, we welcome you to the panel today, and we're looking forward to hear your insights about how more women can begin to take those pathways that you all are forging into the agribusiness landscape and creating spaces for women. Thank you very much once again for coming to the panel. So we're going to jump into the conversation with some of the questions that I have. But before I ask a question, I just wanted to talk about how, I was in a gender event yesterday, and when we made our presentation, we got a lot of questions around how do we integrate more women into the space? How do we get more women to benefit from the space? And we gave our answers, but it seemed like there were still some gaps. And I'm also looking forward to hear from you so that we will know how, we can actually get more women in the space. But we recognize that women contribute 24 to 56%. So women are actually playing in the field. They are contributing. They form like 40% of the workforce. But particularly that contribution is not translating to is women leading in that space, women being empowered economically in that space, women actually becoming key players, and functioning in more significant positions in the space. And that's what we want to explore with this conversation. And I'm hoping that we can get more women to lead and model, as leading women, or model as successful women within the space. And so the first thing I would want us to talk about is, I'll give us the floor to make some contributions in a few minutes. What do you think are the main challenges women face in agribusiness? And then how can they be addressed? Because we know that these things are things we know about. So in a sentence or two, what do you think are those main challenges? And maybe identify one challenge and then give us a solution. So I'll start with Claudia, then Masabata and Jacqueline, please. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ruth. Can you all hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Perfect.
And I'm sure we all can.
I think from my perspective, when you ask us to prepare about that question, the first thing that came to mind, and I might share probably with my other fellow speakers, is the lack of funding. It's one thing that we see not only for women in agribusiness, but I think in women entrepreneurs in general, in the continent, but in the world. Just a scary statistic is like only 2% of all the funding available in the world goes to women. So I think the lack of funding is one of the things that is affecting the most of women being in agriculture or agribusinesses and entrepreneurial activities in general.
Okay, thank you, Claudia. Are you there? Go ahead, you can unmute. Can you unmute, Jacqueline?
Oh, yeah. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here. So from my end, I believe that one of the main challenges, actually I have plenty, but I'll just mention one of the main challenges that women face it's the policies that are there, because we are used that women are used to be at home, supposed to take care of children and do home chores. But now times have changed whereby women are now leading in most of the things that we're doing. But the challenge is the policies that we are using are the same policies that we are prioritizing the men. So women like now regarding as the minorities, and for us to fit in the policies that hasn't changed for the past years is now a challenge. So that's one of the challenges. Can I keep on? Just
Thank you, Ma. Okay, well, because ask other questions, you can also cite some other challenges. So let's hear from Masabata. Hello, Masabata. Okay, it seems like she might be having a challenge, but I know once she comes back, she'll be able to also mention some of the challenges that she has identified. But Jacqueline, you said you have some others. So what other second challenge would you point out? Okay, Masabata is here. Can you hear us? Hello, Masabata.
Yes.
Can you unmute yourself?
Yes, I could
Okay.
hear you. Yes,
Okay,
I did.
all right.
Thank you. So I think my fellow panelists have already touched on some of the challenges I was going to touch on, but I think a big one, which you also started with, is representation. So women mainly make up quite a big number of those that are in the workforce, in the agri space. However, there aren't a lot of them when it comes to policy and decision-making power, right? So as Jacqueline had already said, decisions are made on our behalf because there's no representation into how we make the space more accommodating for females. When it touches on funding, there's no representation on how we make sure that females get access to funding. There are gender stereotypes as well. So I think lack of representation in executive decisions is quite a big challenge with women in agribusiness and participation.
Thanks a lot, Masabata, for that. So we've identified funding is one, policies that are not friendly towards women or that are biased, towards the other gender, and then also representation. And I actually identify the fact that representation is key because most of those decision-making, the decisions that are made, if there's enough representation, then it can influence the other challenges. And then there'll be some progress in advancing the mandates to get more women into the space. But right now we've talked about challenges, and we know that those challenges exist, and there's a lot we can do about it. And when we identify problems, usually I like us to identify the problems for the purpose of getting solutions. And so now that we've been able to identify those key challenges, how do we think we can overcome those challenges and then drive more participation of women? And then how will women benefit from that participation? I know if more women are functioning, definitely more things are happening, and that's a huge benefit. But to really identify what we can do to increase women's participation, what would it be for you, Claudia?
Increasing women participation in agriculture. I think one of the points, at least for my context in Eswatini, is to also make women understand of the benefits that they could get by actually working in agriculture instead of other fields. From the perspective of what we have at Black Mamba, that we work with smallholder farmers, so our value chain where we get all our ingredients is a value chain at the moment of 90 smallholder farmers, of which 75% are women. So we wanted to work mostly with women, but we decided not to close the opportunity to men, just to make sure that it was inclusive and that the men, like Jacqueline mentioned, would potentially not go into the role of like, you cannot do that because you need to be at home and et cetera, et cetera. So not to block the possibility, we've included them as well, but 75% still of our value chain are women. So why do these women get encouraged to actually be part of this or become farmers? Most of them were not farmers before. And I think a characteristic that we have in Black Mamba is contrary to many other projects that are similar and inclusive of grassroots communities. Black Mamba tends to work more with older women than with the youth. So when we asked the women why they decided to become part of the value chain of Black Mamba, what we notice is the benefits that they get, which is the benefits that we could probably extrapolate to other women that want to start working in agriculture, is obviously the no-brainer. The first one is income. So obviously they sell the ingredients to Black Mamba and they get an income immediately. The second one, which was very, very interesting that I would have never imagined, is health and well-being. A lot of these women come from, some of them from corporate, from jobs that they were doing in offices before. And because part of the training that we provide is in organic agriculture and permaculture, they learn as well how to grow their own food. They learn as well how to make their own healthier food. So one thing that came across when we started asking them what were the benefits that they saw is much better health, much better sense of community, talking to other women while they work in the fields, better empowerment in how they feel in society because they're now earning an income that allows them to improve as well. Eswatini is still a very patriarchal society, as many other countries in Africa. So that allows them to improve their role and to improve their assertiveness and empowerment as women as well. And we notice an extra benefit that might not have been straight from the women themselves, but most of them are very proud of the contribution that they're making to a better living for the communities, for their children, and for the planet by growing things organically. So again, this is not from the perspective of me running a business that has a value chain of women, but the women themselves that now becoming farmers have realized the benefits that it entitles for them.
Wow, great. And it's interesting to hear that there's actually a model and an example that you are outlining that you're actually practically implementing to drive this participation. So it's really, really great to hear. And what I heard was that we drive participation through awareness and awareness of the benefits, and the benefits are plenty. And then you also drive participation by opening up access to the space, because where there's no access, then people can't come into the space. Where you're already blocking or there are biases or barriers to coming into the space, then women can't play there. But if we who have gone ahead or women who have gone ahead go on to, create those pathways and give access to other women, it's going to be a great way to drive participation. And finally, you said something that is key: assertiveness. Being able to assert yourself in, knowing that, okay, it's time for me to step up and do more, because sometimes we just want to hold back and say, we can't play this on this level. But if we're able to understand that there's value we're leaving on the table by not playing in the field, then we'll become more assertive and be willing to step up and give our value. Great response, Claudia. So I just want to move to ask, what role, and I will be directing that question to Masabata. You're in leadership. You've also been identified as a leader, and you're an entrepreneur, so young, and you're already leading and doing business as a woman. So what role can you say that women empowerment programs will play in enhancing leadership and decision-making? You talked about decision-making, you talked about the policies, representation. How does that, the programs that drive representation of women, what kind of role do those programs play in enhancing leadership? Because we're talking about leadership now. We know that women play in the field, but they are not taking leadership positions as they should, and they are not even earning as much as they should for the work they put in. So can we enhance leadership and decision-making, these programs? What role can programs play? Masabata. Can we support in unmuting her? Because I think I see you trying to unmute yourself. Okay. All right.
All right, thank you, Ruth.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I think that women empowerment programs actually give us an opportunity to build capacity. When I first went to university, I wasn't the leader that people see today. I was just a girl who wanted to get through university. I didn't want to lead anyone, but it is through the different programs that I've been in, the Brace program included, that I can now stand and represent women in spaces such as this. And in Agribuno, we've made it our mission to make sure that we empower females, we build capacity in them in various topics, from financial management, from leadership in itself, because some of these women have been previously disadvantaged. So when they take over farms, for example, they don't know how to deal with conflicts. Right? They don't know how to manage finances because for so long they've been put at the back, right? It doesn't inspire confidence. It doesn't allow it. There's no room for them to grow into the space. And through programs like we're running at Agribuno, where we allow these women to come in, we talk about financial management. We talk about how to implement climate smart practices on your farm. We talk about leadership and how you grow as a leader. We talk about business modeling, because women are not confident in getting into spaces where they're going to be asked about value proposition, market segment, if they've not been capacitated to do so. So I think these empowerment programs build capacity in females, and gives them confidence to grow and scale their businesses. Right now, there's a farmer that was part of our program last year. She went on to speak at the Global Food Forum, talking about challenges that women face. And she asked for a recommendation from us. So had it not been for the Women in Agri Accelerator program, she wouldn't have been able to provide proof of her learnings. She wouldn't have had the confidence or the backing and even endorsement, right, to the stage to go on this platform and represent South African female farmers. I think it also addresses gender inequality. So once you've built capacity, they're now confident enough to say, but I can do the job, because there's proof, there's endorsement, and the support from other females, which will be my next point, advocacy. So often women are known for tearing each other down, right? Women are known for competing for the same piece of the pie. But I think it's time, as females in agri, or females just in general, to empower each other and advocate for each other. Because we will then teach the world how to treat us differently. We will teach the world that we are respectful of each other, we care about each other, and we want each other to do well. So those are the three that I can share right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Masabata. Very, very interesting response you gave. And you said something about capacity building. There's something I know about building capacity. Even if you don't want to lead, the more you build capacity, the more responsibility kind of is laid on you to do something with what you have received. And I think that's one line of thought that women should have. Make yourself better. I usually say something in the circles of women I lead or I speak to. I say competence has no gender. Sometimes when women come and they complain we don't have access to this or we don't have opportunities, we'll say, okay, just focus on building yourself. Just focus on getting the skills. Just focus on being that person that can, occupy those positions or fill those rooms. And you'll find out that somehow, because you have grown bigger than where you are, the doors will open automatically and you get in there. So I heard competency, I heard confidence, which is also key to, letting women step out. But one thing I noted that you said is women building each other. I believe one thing that helps women build competence is the fact that they know that they have backing, they have community, they have people, who, watching their backs, and they have other sisters or other women watching their backs. So it's very key that, the programs that enhance competence building, confidence building, capacity building, community building as well, be incorporated into the mandate of creating pathways. And I also know that charisma plays a role. Women should be confidently step out and be women actually, and bring out the feminine power, and they're able to have, access to do the things that, everybody is actually waiting for them to contribute to. So thank you very much for that contribution. And I can see why, you're blazing the trail as young as you are. And thank you for what you do. So Jacqueline, we're talking about finance. We're talking about funding is a challenge. There are things that women want to access, they cannot access. But you're a woman in business. and you're running your organization, JE Foods, and you're creating, opportunities. You're speaking to investors. I can see what you do. You're really, pushing the boundaries and, going out there and making sure that you build your business. So how can women, access those finance that seems to be a challenge for them? How can they access markets? How can they access other resources that they need to scale business? Because we know women are doing food business and agribusiness, but we play small, and sometimes when they say grow bigger, it seems like it's a daunting task and it's something that women are not too courageous or confident enough to do. So how can women access this? Like, how do you communicate to other women who might be listening that this is how to do it, and it's not as scary as it seems? Jacqueline. Okay.
All right. So the issue of finance, marketing, and everything is very broad. But as a woman, I always share my experience. When I was starting my business, I had no experience or knowledge of what I was doing. I knew what I wanted to do, but I didn't have the right direction. So I used to reach out to few women to help me through. So those women advised me that there are this women group. You should consider joining them. So one of the main key of a woman to build or to find finance or to find market is to be in groups. For instance, here in Malawi, we have groups like Commercial Federation for Women in Business, whereby every woman who is in business, whether you are in agri or engineering or what, you are in that group. So in that group, they share call for application of for many fellowships, many opportunities, and grants as well. But if a woman is just hiding on a corner, she can't have access to this information. And also, like participating in different types of fellowship, like me when I was attending Leading African, I'm an alumni for Leading African Women. So this was a fellowship I attended, and it opened so much door for me. Through AFC, they have a website whereby once you are a member, you post your products. On that, you are also having a wide network of people to know about what are you selling what are you selling your products, what impact are you doing in your community. So through the platform, the website, people, they easily go and check, and you might never know, you might meet your investors. And also through my experience, I had a very bad experience when I was starting my business without no support. So I didn't want the people that are coming behind me to experience the same thing. So I also started training women, but my criteria or my approach was for those women only who are into groups. So apart from training them, we also have introduced a concept of village savings and loan, because it's hard. I don't know about other countries, but in Malawi, it's hard for a startup SME, a woman, to have access to finance because they need collateral. And in Africa, we always have collaterals in the name of our parents or our fathers. So with the approach of village savings and loan, what we did is we were using interest to invest on the village savings and loan. And we at first it was just 1 year, but we took as 1 year, it was too long, and now it's 6 months. And through this VSL, like women, they're able to save their savings that after training, the training that we have, after their sales, they're able to invest, and then they're able to take something out of interest. And I've seen wonders doing others that have even managed to build their homes, send their children to school, and even boost their businesses. But this is happening because they're in groups, and this couldn't happen if they were not in groups. And also, we have tried to introduce a market platform, or call it farmers market, whereby women SMEs are able to bring their products and sell. So for the farmers market, it's a group of women. So you can't have this platform if you are just on a hideout, like, no, I'm doing this business, people, they'll find me. But you need to go out and join various groups on women groups, women in agribusiness, women doing XYZ. When you're in groups, even your knowledge is widened. You share different experiences. When I join, now I'm a fellow for Center for African Leaders in Agriculture. So I thought that the challenges of women that we are facing in Malawi, it was just for just Malawi. So when I was having a platform, a conversation with my friend from Kenya, I was like, no, it's the same thing. And we had a deep conversation about it. And I took something that I also implemented with my women from here in Malawi. So mostly the challenges that our women are facing in Southern Africa are the same. But the main thing, the main best way that we can do, let's advise these women to be in different groups. In these groups, we can easily take even a loan as a group. Here we have National Economic Revolving Fund. They even advise us to take loan as a group. Like if you're a group of 10, like my friends are going to be my collateral, so that they'll be accountable of the loan that I'm taking. So it's helping other women to do that. So when you're a group, you can easily know, okay, there's this call for application, let's do this together. There's this order, there was an order of applying some sorghum, but it was a very big order one woman couldn't manage. So women, those who are interested, they came together, one bring 1 ton, 2 ton, 3 ton, and at the end of the day, they all manage together. And like when women we hold hands, force there's a certain force that comes with it. So it's better to be in groups and work together with their friends. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jacqueline. When you are talking, you just simplified it, because we're waiting to hear, okay, you do this, take this step, you take that step, you now go to that step. But there's a way you simplified the solution to access. And the simple word you used is community. And we can't say it enough. I can't overestimate the value of community, because I know there's a saying, an African saying that has become our saying in Africa Food Changemakers. When you want to go fast, you can go alone. But when you want to go far, you go with others. And we're talking about scale. A lot of times people want to speed up their business. They just want to do things quickly. And so they start the business, they are working solo, they are, powering, but your energy is going to run out at a point, and your knowledge will run out. Everything will run out. But in a community, what happens is that it seems like there's a multiplier effect when people connect. So what one person or two people can do individually is somehow exponentially increased when two of them come together. And so we can't emphasize that community thing. And you talked about also community also fosters help. People are supporting each other. Community fosters information, because you can be where you are, you think you know everything, that you have visibility to everything, but someone comes and brings another perspective or just a little piece of knowledge that can change everything. And so it's really great that you pointed that out, because we are all about community. And we're identifying that this discussion on women is actually a discussion on community, the case for community. Not only in the fact that, people are doing peer-to-peer, but also community in the fact that people who have gone ahead are helping others who are coming. I like what you said about having training other women. That's great. And then giving the criteria that they should be in groups. This also helps access to big fund. So someone working on her own might not be able to get access to some certain level of fund, but if women come together, they will be able to access funds on a certain level, and they'll be able to scale easily. So thank you very much for those contributions. I would have wanted to go ahead to ask for examples of models, but I can see that in our responses, we kind of incorporated our personal examples and models. And if everybody was listening, would be able to identify how you have practically used your businesses and your operations to make that change, and to actually create those pathways that we're looking for, to empower women and to also inspire them to come forward, build their competencies, build their businesses, begin to assume leadership in the space and all that. We're going to be transiting into questions. I don't know if there are questions that have been coming out from the beginning, but we're moving into the question and answer section. And I would, while we are waiting for questions, because I don't know if my team can help, if there are people raising their hands for questions, please, I would appreciate if we can identify them and let them unmute and ask their questions. Also, alternatively, you can use the chat box to drop your questions, and so that our panelists can respond directly to some of the questions you might have around the topic. But I want to throw the floor open again back to Claudia, if you can elaborate a little bit on some of the models and how that model that you have built within your business can practically create ways for more women to begin to assume leadership. We are really very, very passionate and particular about women assuming leadership. Somebody said in the chat box, role modeling. They pointed it out in some context. And I believe that that role model approach is a big element in that pathway creation, because the more role models are raised in that field, the more people will be influenced or inspired to come in. So how has, in your own experience and in your own business, how have you, how have you used your model to create such a pathway generation? Thank you. Claudia.
Thanks so much, Ruth. I think the business model of Black Mamba was built on being good for communities, for women, and for the planet. So we have that like 3 parts that are very important for us. From the very beginning, we decided not to work with large commercial farmers. We wanted to work with microholder farmers, and as the business grows, those microholders become smallholders, then they will keep on growing. And we wanted to change as well the concept of monocrops and pesticides and all the inputs that you don't necessarily need for clean produce, let's just say it that way. So it was a model that from the beginning, it needed to be started like that. I would say Black Mamba is a business, but it was started more as a development program for smallholder farmers, focusing on women. But what we realize in many other projects that are sort of similar to what Black Mamba does, Eswatini has a lot of aid. There's many organizations that help here and there. And we've noticed that a part that was very much missing on that project, on those projects that have all the good intentions, was the fact that there wasn't a market access link to that. So there's always a lot of like, let's teach people how to grow this way, let's teach them how to grow this way, but then all of a sudden there's no market for those products. So I think the business model of Black Mamba has, because it's a value chain that is linked to a business that manufactures and a brand that is bringing something else that just produce, has helped us to actually grow the business model and to showcase it to not only buyers and not only other people that might be interested in Black Mamba that is growing as a global brand, but also to see that a business model that prioritizes communities, women, and the environment can be also successful and profitable, if that makes sense. So we moved from the space of, another lovely NGO program, they're so nice, they come and help us in Africa, lovely people, to, excuse me, we can do this ourselves. We just need the business opportunity and growing something. I always tell the women that are part of our value chain that they're business women, because this is not a charity, it's not run as a charity. We provide teaching, we provide training, we provide the market access, but everything else, it's themselves, it's their hard work, we do obviously things like financial literacy, so they understand a little bit better when needed how to use the funds and wellness. But what we realize is the business model itself is very linked to grassroots and to the fact that we, from the beginning, wanted to do something that would be profitable and good for everybody involved.
Thank you very much, Claudia. Thank you for pointing out the fact that you encourage people to see themselves as businesses, and that we have actually the capacity to incorporate sustainability within our operations and our business. So know that we can self-sustain. And if we have the mindset and we have we are running the model, a sustainable model, then we will actually stay afloat, because we're thinking from scratch that we want to be sustainable. So I also want to hear from Masabata and Jacqueline. So Masabata, could you just try talk to us just quickly, share with us some of the successful models of women-led businesses. You all have women, you know, you are all running businesses and your businesses are women-led. So can you share some of the models you're incorporating into your business and how that, what can people learn from it? We're going on to give them, for them to talk about more of the examples, because we've not seen any questions. I don't know if anybody can help me. If there's somewhere else the questions are, but I'm not seeing on the chat room, and I'm not seeing anybody's hands raised. So I believe all the ladies on the panel have been very clear and, you know, concise to really give the solutions, and it's up to us to implement what we've heard, and that's where everything lies. What are we going to do differently? So, Masabata, please share some of the models of the elements you're incorporating into your business and how what people can learn from that. And after which, Jacqueline, you can also share quickly yours, and then we'll wrap up our conversation. Thank you, Masabata.
Hi, thank you, Ruth. I think Claudia had really touched on, you know, having a clear vision, right, and making sure that there's training involved in implementation, and these women don't just see themselves as farmers, but as businesswomen in this space. So to avoid being repetitive, I'll touch on maybe other aspects of our business, if that's okay. One thing we've taken quite seriously at Agribusiness is creating an ecosystem of partners. Understanding that we cannot do everything by ourselves. So if we cannot do marketing for the business, we bring in a partner that can do that. So whatever resources we have, we use well in training and capacitating female farmers to grow and scale their businesses. Whatever skills we do not have in facilitating climate smart agriculture, we bring up partners to do that. Whatever, you know, resources we do not have in facilitating leadership modules, we do that. We bring in partners that come in and even sponsor tools that farmers can get outside of any funding or grants they receive to further invest in their businesses. So what we've been very intentional about over the past 2 years has been creating that ecosystem of partners and not trying to operate in isolation. So that would be the first. And secondly, mentorship. People normally, you know, think, who needs a mentor, or mentors are always so busy, but you don't have to get someone who's extremely famous and big in your network. There are people that are doing what you, or have done what you're doing, right? They may be 5 steps ahead, and that's okay, because for them to get to the 5 steps, they started where you started. So there's learning that can take place there. We're very intentional about mentorship. And having other people hold us accountable, because that's another thing as small businesses we shy away from most of the time, accountability. So we appreciate having people to report to. We have a board. We're small, and we didn't say we are small, so we'll only have a board in 3 years' time. We brought out partners, again, looking at the ecosystem of partners and mentorship, and bringing on people that we believe are like-minded and are able to support our vision. So that has worked very, very well for us, because these people are even able to refer us to say, hi, Ruth, there's Masabata doing this, you know, how can you support? When it would have taken me 10 years to even hear about you, Ruth, because you're at a level maybe I haven't even entered. So these mentors and these networks we are part of open doors for us, mention our names in rooms that we have not entered in preparation for our growth. So outside of being intentional about training, having a clear vision, I would talk about creating that strong and healthy ecosystem of partners. And then just lastly, making sure that you take up mentorship. It's all around us. Thank you.
So in our mindsets, we're also supposed to be connecting with people who would help us embed those new mindsets. And I always say that that's what mentorship does. You know, a mentor would help you know how to apply what you're learning and give you practical advice. So we're going to land with Jacqueline. Tell us in summary, what are some of those elements within your model that can actually result or translate to those pathways to empowerment and leadership for other women in agribusiness?
So for us, what's working with the women that I'm working with, we first had a conversation like, this is what we are doing as JFoods, and what are your expectations, and where do you want to be? So the women also discuss, like, for us, we wanted to move from point X to point Z. One of the main things that was a common factor was the issue of climate change. Like, when it comes to climate change, women are the main they're the men that they're the ones that are mainly affected by climate change, because with the women farmers that I'm working with, they couldn't spend much time at the farm because they have to go and fetch water, take care of the house. And when there's issue of climate, like last year, we affected with cyclone Freddy, and these women, they were affected so badly. So apart from of taking their farm inputs, we also had an initiative whereby we are planting trees in the farm. Because what we're doing at JFoods, we provide nutrition supplements product, and we can't talk about nutrition without talking about one health of the planet as well. So we are also planting trees, but us as a social enterprise. So these women, we meet halfway. We provide the seeds, and the women, they are taking care of the nursery, and we plant the trees together. So also for us women to excel in our agribusiness, we also need to know, what do we want? What problem are we solving? Because we're working with farmers. Okay, what are the farmers benefiting from you? Are you just taking their crops, dying? So most people will be like, I know we are provided the market. After market, what next? So also these farmers, their livelihood has to change. Okay, we have been partnered with JFoods. We are selling this, but apart from selling, we are also benefiting from XYZ. So that's what we are doing. And also, like I said, the model of very savings and loan, that is also benefit to them. But the other ones that are using platform, they very saving, they don't keep the money in their homes. We have brought a component of technology whereby they are using mobile money services to keep their finances. And also, apart from the trainings that we provide to them, we also provide business and financial trainings, because money is the most delicate thing whereby everyone is looking at it. So we also train them how they can manage the money and whatnot. So as a woman entrepreneur, one thing you have to know, what do you want to achieve in your life? Have clear goals, and in groups, mentorship, and all that, they will help you to reach where you're going. Thank you.
Thank you very much, all our speakers. Thank you, Jacqueline. I've really been writing a lot of ideas coming out, and I like how you ended, Jacqueline. Women should be able to be clear on their goals, understand what is it you want, and go after what you want. Someone would say there's no better instruction than a clear direction. So if you have a clear direction, it instructs you, it motivates you towards your goals. And that's what we're going to end with as we wrap this up. No questions, and that just says that our conversation was very clear and very, very insightful, and a lot of insights, I believe, has come out of this. I can see the chat room buzzing. And thank you, everyone. I can't thank you, Claudia, Jacqueline, and Masabata, for the insights you've shared. Very practical insights from your businesses. You women, we want to say thank you for what you're doing in your operations and taking those steps that are required to actually make the change. You all are indeed change makers, and we're proud of you at African Food Change Makers.